Ancestors, thank you so much for another day where we get to express ourselves, grow within ourselves, and grow with our community and family around us. Today, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we want to be able to embody his message throughout the week, be able to embody that message of fighting for our rights, for fighting for our needs, fighting for others who perhaps cannot fight for themselves. We also want to honor his family, his wife, Coretta Scott King, and her work that continues the legacy of him, that continues the legacy of herself and her own family, her own ancestors. And we hope to be able to embody that within ourselves, not only in our physical, but also our spiritual goals. Ancestors, please help to continue to inspire us, to uplift us, to show us the ways that you laid the foundation for what we are doing today in the present, and the ways that we can lay the foundation for those who are coming after us. Ashe. Welcome, beloved, to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine. I'm your host, Sacred Woman Practitioner Tatami. You can learn more about the shrine at patreon.com/Sankofa Shrine. Today I thought we would start with a card that I pulled for the week. I ended up using the Art X-Men deck because it was just what was available more close, and it's not a deck that I would say I would recommend to just everybody, but if you feel you know the tarot, I would recommend this deck. Or if you really love his artwork, it really speaks to you, I would also recommend this deck because it's a very beautiful deck. It's a very beautiful Afrofuturistic type of artwork, but it does not come with anything except the deck, not even a sheet of paper to talk about it. So you should definitely perhaps know what's going on, or be willing to look up every individual card if you're just learning still. So today I did manage to pull the Six of Wands, and this is one that is a card that speaks of victory. It's a card that speaks of success and what you've been able to achieve. And one thing that really stands out to me about this card is just that confidence that this person has here. They're walking with the balance of all of this knowledge and wisdom kind of just piled on their head, almost like a little universe. And to me, this is representative of, you know, all those things that we gather as we move through our lives. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're gathering them, right? We don't realize that we're gaining all of these different tools. But this week, I think it's important for us to, especially as we're still at the beginning of the year, still at the beginning of some of our goals, or perhaps dead in the middle of some of our goals if you started before the new year. But you know, we're at this point where we have to realize we do have these tools, and realize how to reach down deep and bring it all together. You know, reach down deep and you put them together in order to use the tools effectively, and know which tools to use when. So this kind of goes with our theme of being surrounded by the ancestors, having the tools that we need, and going for it. And so let this be a moment of success, of knowing that you're walking with purpose into a future that matters, that is something that you want, that your ancestors want for you, right? Because it's not just about like the grand plan of the ancestors. The ancestors they do have a plan, but they are working with us. They know that each of us has our own desires, our own abilities, our own purpose, and the ancestors are willing to work with that, right? You know, they're not going to treat every single person exactly the same just because there's some grand master plan out there. The fact is we all have our own abilities, we all have our own things that we're really good at, and the ancestors understand that, and they understand we have personal goals while we're here, and we're able to work all of that together. So today I wanted to read, not from the book, but because it was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I did want to read from a couple of his quotes. And most importantly, I did find this one that I really enjoyed because I felt like it really embodies again that message. This is before I even pulled the card. So it almost feels like I'm about to repeat myself, but I think I'm going to be able to keep it, to pull it together, but also keep it moving in that way. So the quote I found, he wrote, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." And for me, when I was reading this, well, first of all, this idea that anybody can serve, anybody can stand up from where they are now and do something for somebody else, or do something that perhaps the community needs in general, or just do something that you see, like, when you're outside and you see garbage and it's not your job, but you pick it up because blessings to Mother Earth, and you're not the type of person who will see that and just let it be. But also, I was really impressed with this idea of, like, you don't have to have a college degree, you don't have to know these certain theories or even know about these certain philosophers or scientists from any specific time. And to bring that to us, you don't actually have to be studying at the feet of some elder. You don't have to be paying for certain classes. Like, is that nice when you can do it? Sure. Is it wonderful when you can pay to go to a class? Absolutely. But a lot of what you're going to find when you take these classes is that a lot of this stuff you intuitively already knew. You were just second guessing yourself, and you could have started serving others, but perhaps you've been holding yourself back. You don't think that you're qualified. You don't think that you should be doing those things. To that I say, firstly, there's the idea of serving without pay, right? You can volunteer some of your services if you don't think you're good enough for a lot of these things. But also, there's the idea of, how am I going to put this? There's the idea of being able to really follow your heart and find those ways, fill in those cracks and not be intimidated or not be let down because you can't afford things, because that's really not what our spirituality is supposed to be about. It's not just supposed to be capitalism. It's not just supposed to be, pay for this, get this, only pay these certain types of people, because then we kind of get into a lot of gatekeeping, and even not being able to get your hands on a book, like Sacred Woman or other types of books. It kind of gets into that gatekeeping. So this is a reminder, in a way, this quote is a reminder to start with what we have, to draw on the ancestral knowledge that's within us, to focus on those ways of the things that we do know what to do, even if something out there looks like something we want to get into, recognizing maybe we're going to need more practice with that. So let me try with what I have. I was looking through something recently, and I realized all of a sudden, reading this, or I think I was reading the description of the video I was watching, and I realized I have all the ingredients for this. They're in my cabinet. They were in my cupboard. And so I went ahead and I made myself some of the incense that were, I think it was like cinnamon, sandalwood, and like guar gum powder or something. I'm not sure what the last ingredient was, but it was really satisfying to realize, like, I could start where I was in that moment, and further, that I didn't have to be the best of scholars. I don't have to be able to be the best of speakers, have all of the long words, know all of the history off the top of my head. I do have still things that I can offer. I do still have ways that I can connect. And I think that part is so important for us to remember. Also, this idea of, putting people on pedestals, I think, is another thing that is really important to remember as we continue our journeys. I have made a video before that was called Queen's Journey is Not Your Journey, which I think a lot of people it resonated with. It resonated with them that they don't have to be going to Kemet or wearing their head wraps big on the top of their head with, chain, like gold chains like on top, and beautiful little dangly things. We don't all have to like look like Badu or whatever, but it goes deeper than that, because sometimes we find that there's people in our community who we're putting on pedestals, and we have to remember they're just human too, and that sometimes what we're seeing isn't really like what is. Sometimes what we're seeing is people's brands that, they're just trying to sell, they're just trying to keep up their lifestyle or achieve some of their own personal goals. But I think it's a good reminder to know that your goals are also important, and you don't have to be learning these people's philosophy or putting them up on a pedestal in order to really, share and grow and teach others what you've been learning through your own, growing plants at home, or gathering, or making incense, whatever it is you do. I think a good example of this is also a while back, there was, not a while back, it's still a thing, but it all did kind of fall apart, like about a year ago. There was a Facebook group that everybody really, really loved, and we were definitely putting certain people on pedestals, and then it kind of came out that they were involved with people who were really harming the community, and people weren't really, warned appropriately. And afterwards, I haven't really seen, anything free or like some kind of therapy, spiritual, give back from all that. It just kind of moved on. But I feel like people missed the opportunity there too, and maybe some people really did see it, and that's kind of why some people moved on from it. But I think it was a good opportunity to realize, like, sometimes we're giving others this power, like they're Einstein, when even Einstein was just like a dude. He was just a person, and he wasn't perfect in every way, and he wasn't like all brilliant in every way. But sometimes we kind of deify people and we deify situations, when the reality is we don't need to be giving deference to those things. We don't need to be giving offerings to those things, whether they be physical or just a spiritual way we're doing it. What we can do is be realistic, be respectful, but also not put ourselves down in the process. Not see somebody else and then think I'm not there yet, or I'm less than, because you can still serve, you can still be part of the community, you can still do things for your family, for your community, for your friends online or in person, and you're still very valid for that, and nobody can take that away from you. Absolutely, we do need to be careful, make sure we're not doing too much or doing things we shouldn't be doing, or habitually line stepping in the spirit realm. I'm not encouraging that, but I am saying I think a lot of people really toned themselves down seeing a lot of these influencers, and because of all the glitz and glamour of the influencers and the things they sell, and the way they label those things, so it seems like there's this whole other world that you don't really know, and really it's just an infusion. It's just, we have a whole bunch of those in our Queen Afua book, right? In our Sacred Woman book. She's got 1 billion of those, and she's encouraging you to do it too. So yes, maybe you don't have the time to make all of your salves and oils and whatnot, but keeping in mind that that's what other people are doing. They're just putting their energy into it, and we can respect it and we can love it, but it shouldn't come at the cost of bringing ourselves down, or being like, I'm no Aristotle, I'm no this, I'm know that. You don't need to be that humble that you're just trying to put yourself down for somebody else's thing, and replace those Plato with Queen Afua or anybody else. Insert your favorite spiritualist influencer here, and remember that there is a whole world out there, and that this person is going down a path that can inspire us, but their journey is not our journey, and our journey is just as valid and just as important, especially to the people around us. The other quote I wanted to read, what this is the final one, was also about service. He says, every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or the darkness of destructive selfishness. This is the judgment. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I always like to think of that even when I'm doing things for myself, I like to think about how it's going to impact others, because sometimes it could be neutral, sometimes it can be positive, sometimes it can be negative. But I do think it's important for me to keep in mind, how is this going to impact others? What is this thing I'm doing, and what is the purpose of it? What am I hoping to achieve through it? And especially with something like African traditional religion, where we infuse spirituality into everything, from how we clean the house to how we dress to how what jewelry we're choosing, to what we choose to put in our bodies and on our bodies, and our children and our lovers, our friends. We're out here laying hands on people, and it's important to really stick with that understanding of what that means. And I think Queen has a really good term for that, which is to be staying in your center, which is, understanding what you're doing, not getting all these emotions, not getting pulled this way and that way and this way and that way, depending on what's happening, but really to stay in your center and understand what it is you're trying to do, what it is you're trying to achieve, and how what you're doing is going to get there, and what you're expecting. What are your intentions? Let's think those things out clearly to ourselves, or write it in your journal if you have it. Hopefully you do. And really, concentrate on that and manifest on that. I think it's so important. So at any rate, I kind of want to leave it at that for today, and have us go out and think about what it is that this year we're trying to achieve with this. Are you trying to achieve better relationships with someone else or yourself? Are you trying to achieve discipline with yourself, with your family, with your schedule, with your ability to utilize these different spiritual tools? Are you trying to get better with conversing with the ancestors? Are you trying to gain sobriety? Are you trying to work on your diet? Are you trying to, work on whatever your special craft is? Some sacred food, sacred arts of some sort, like dance or quilts or guitar, or, singing, or those types of things. What do we have a specific goal? And it doesn't have to be the whole kit and the caboodle, and I don't think it should be. I think it's okay for us to focus on one or two things and have that be our focus for this year. Something that you think that if you focus on that, it will give you a core support, some kind of foundation, something strong to lean on. And I think we all have different goals where that's concerned, because we're all going through such different things. But it's really important to understand what you're trying to achieve when you learn these things, what you're doing with these things, and further how those things are going to influence others, because that's really what these religions are. They're communal, they're spiritual. I mean, of course it's communal because we're talking with our own ancestors, our own family, who were also part of communities, who also had support. And I think building that support is something that's really going to be fundamental. Building that understanding of how we're impacting each other and how we want to impact each other is going to be so important, especially for, places like what we're doing here, this Sankofa Ancestor Shrine. It's kind of taking the place of some of the churches that we used to go to. And I think that's going to be so important to so many people, because, we don't have those things, and it's kind of up to you and me to build those things and think like that and think about ourselves in relation with others. It's not just I'm doing this for me, and it's not just I give to others. There's a kind of combination with those two, and it's important for us to recognize that, honor that, but also, explore what that's going to mean and what that's going to look like, especially with each one of us in particular. So think about that. Think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, what your goal is, how that goal is going to impact you and those very directly close to you, and those in the wider community that you haven't even met yet and you maybe never will. All right, beloved, stay safe out there. Much love. Happy Martin Luther King Day. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.